You have arrived at Laughbox, the podcast for the Association of Applied and Therapeutic Humor. We are so excited you're here.
2, 1. Welcome to Laughbox, the official podcast of the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. I'm Jim Bob Williams.
And I'm Katie B.
And today we have a very special guest, stand-up comic from Arizona, the Gila River Indian Community. We have Wolf Brown.
What's up, everybody? How's it going? Wolf Brown here, live and direct, the one and only, never lonely.
All right, so tell us a little bit about yourself. You've got a new album, and
Yeah, it's really crazy. I do have a new comedy album out. It's available on CD Baby, Amazon, any of the live streaming services, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify. You can listen to it. If you have those premium services, you can definitely listen to it for free, which is awesome as well. And yeah, so that barely dropped on September 30th on my birthday, which was great. So I just recently turned, how old? 43. I just turned 43. Getting up there. Can't even remember my own age.
So you grew up on the Gila River Reservation, is that right?
Yes, I was born and raised from the village of Bapchule. We call it District 5 is where it is. I grew up there my entire life, which was always fun and full of good life events and bad life events as well.
Sure, yeah. And how did you get into comedy?
How did I get into comedy? It's a pretty funny story. So I was a big fan of comedy. Like I'd always see it growing up. My dad worked for an auto auction place, and one of his jobs was cleaning out the cars. And he knew that I was very quick-witted and smart-mouthed with my humor and the way I am. So one day I guess he was cleaning out a car and he found CDs and cassettes. This is how old it was. This was like in the late 90s, early 90s-ish. And he found a cassette and it was called Richard Pryor's Let There Be Light.
Whoa!
Oh, nice.
What a find!
And it was a cassette, and he was like, "Hey, I know you like to laugh and tell jokes or whatever, so here you go." And I don't remember being that much of a jokey kid. So he gave it to me, and I probably shouldn't have been listening to that, but it was hilarious. Like I said, it was just one of those weird things that, whoa, listening to this cassette of this man I've never met, never seen, no clue what he looked like, but hearing just his words control a room full of laughter, telling his stories about how bad his life was and how basically making fun of it and turning it into something that everybody can laugh at. Like that had a huge impact on me. It was crazy. And just like the outlandish stories, like in that album, he did this story where they go visit a voodoo woman and then he tells like what happens there. And it was just like very interesting to me. I'm like, oh, you can just tell a story. I'm pretty sure it didn't really happen in life, but he's making up a story that everybody's buying into and laughing about, and it's a funny bit too.
Yeah.
So that was like where I started, and actually, let's rewind that a little bit further back. When I was a little kid, 5, 6, 7-ish, somewhere around there, I would get left at my grandma's a lot, who lived on the Thono Reservation, and my mom would drop us off there on the weekends, or if something happens, we would get left there with my grandmother, and she didn't speak any English; she only spoke our O'odham language, which was crazy because I don't know how we really communicated with her because we didn't speak our language. But I think it's just more like pointing and yelling at things at us, Okay, I get that. I get body language. I understand body language. But they lived in such a rural area that she had this antenna TV and it was like black and white, and all she got was like 1 or maybe 4 channels from Tucson. And it was all like black and white stuff. So when I go to her house, since I couldn't talk to my grandma a lot, I would watch TV and it was all like old programming. So I grew up, and I think that's where my smart mouth comes from. I grew up watching like Groucho Marx, the Marx Brothers, W.C. Fields. I think I saw something on Henny Youngman once when I was little, and I'm just like, this is so crazy because I've always been a nerdy kid, and I've always liked to read, and I've always liked words themselves, and like I said, just knowing that these guys are saying things so quick. Now I know it's written, but when you're a kid, you're just watching these people talk, and it's somebody says something to Groucho, bam, snaps back real quick. I'm like, oh, that's so funny. How did he make all that up in his brain that fast? And that all had an impact on me. And then fast forward now back to you, listening to stand-up comedy. My dad got, and then I think he ended up finding it in those cars, the Richard Pryor CD cassette, and then there was a Rodney Dangerfield cassette in there, and what was the other one? A Jackie the Joke Man Martling cassette as well. If you guys don't know who Jackie the Joke Man is, he's very blue, very vulgar, very there. And like I said, once again, another something I probably wasn't supposed to listen to, but here I am listening to all these what I consider great writers that I mean, it's all I knew. And I'm just like, man, how come nobody does this around here? How come? And then like when I'd watch TV at night, like the Tonight Show from time to time, I'd stay up and they have a comedian on there that's always just it's like, where's my native people at? Where
Yeah.
are like it's like just even that growing up watching TV, there's no straight native people on TV. It's
Right.
just Caucasians, blacks, some Hispanics, and that just always sat weird with me in my brain. I'm just like, where are we? Where are we allowed to do stuff?
Yeah.
Then as I began to get older, I started just loving comedy. Like I said, it's just a thing of words to me. I like the play on words. I love puns. I love wordplay. Like I said, callback type jokes. It's, I don't know, just something in my brain that, like I said, being a big nerdy kid who loved to read, it's just one of those things that I can never get out of my brain.
So when did you go on stage for the first time to deliver
Uh,
jokes?
that comes to, I consider him a comedy mentor, but I don't know if he considers me a comedy student. Later on in life, I was really into, like I said, Latino comedians. There's a comedian I really liked. One night I woke up, I used to work weird jobs and I'd get off at odd hours and I came home late one night and I fell asleep and I woke up and on TV, I think it was a show. It was like Comic View or Comic something was on TV and I came home late and I just caught it and I caught this comedian by the name of Felipe Esparza.
Huh.
And it was like when he was first coming out onto the scene and I just really connected with his jokes. His jokes were very, even though they're about the barrio or the ghettos of Los Angeles, to me, it sounded like stuff that happens on the res. Like I could see
Yeah.
this guy, and he could be one of my uncles. He could be my cousin. He could be because he was very gangster about his approach to comedy, but still really laid back. So he just reminded me of somebody that I would know, one of my relatives. So I started following him, and I go watch a show at the Tempe Improv. I take my girlfriend. We'd go all the time. And then one day he saw me and he was like, "Hey, you're at a lot of our shows." And I was like, "Hey, I think you guys are funny." I was like, "I have your bootleg CDs that nobody has, I found." And he was impressed by that. And then he was like, "Come hang out with us after the show." And then so after the show was over, everybody left and I got to hang out, me, him, and my girlfriend and a bunch of the other comedians. And I was just hanging out with them, making them laugh. And then it became the thing to do after every time he came to Arizona. I'd hang out after shows with him. And every time he would tell me, "You need to get on stage. You're very funny." And I was like, "Oh, I don't think so." And I asked my girlfriend at the time, I was like, "Do you think I'm funny?" She's no. She would laugh about it. And I was like, "I don't know." So then maybe the fourth or fifth time, he was like, "Hey, I'm telling you right now, go find an open mic, start working on material, and just say the stuff that you're telling us backstage because you were hanging out." He's like, "Whether you know it or not, you're hanging out with a bunch of comedians, and we don't laugh at anybody's jokes. But you're making us laugh all night the whole time you're hanging out with us. So obviously there's something there."
Nice.
And I was like, "I don't know." So then I went home. And the next morning I woke up and I was talking to my girlfriend. I was like, "Do you think I should try it or do it?" And she was like, "If Felipe thinks you're funny and we think Felipe is funny, maybe you should try it." I was just like, all right. So I just put it in my brain that right then and there, I was going to learn how to be a comedian. And I bought books, how to write a joke. And I think there was a couple of books out about writing skits for Saturday Night Live or skits for The Tonight Show. So I read those books. And then that put a bunch of mumble jumble in my brain about how comedy should be. And then I just started writing. Like I wrote for like nonstop 2 months where I had a giant, thick, maybe 200-page binder full of unfunny jokes. because I started thinking about it, like I wasn't looking at it the way that I should have been looking at it. I was looking at it from a writing standpoint. So like that being like I would think about, okay, what's funny about me? Oh, I'm Native American. What's funny about being Native American? Then I do like word association jokes that start off with my listings of bows, arrows, wagon burners, what else? Just stuff like that. Just try to find funny words or play or puns or whatnot to work off of those words with. And then I was like, okay, what's the other thing that's funny about me? Okay, I'm fat. I'm a big guy. I know that. What's funny about being fat? Oh, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, all this stuff, heart attack. So I started writing. So like I said, it was just a giant book of unfunny observations about myself and my family. I did it for everybody in my house. Basically, just wrote a giant roast sheet if I ever needed it on my family. And then after 2 months, I did my first gig at a coffee house, and it went great. It was awesome. I like the first night I went. It was an open mic for bands, and so they gave me like 10 minutes, which is something you shouldn't normally get as a comedian just starting. So I went up there for 10 minutes, and I literally just pulled out my binder and wrote read from this page by page like I'm giving a sermon. But the group that was there was very supportive. There you go. That's the word. They're very supportive, and they were like, "Oh yeah, just keep doing it, man. You're funny. You got some funny stuff there. You'll eventually work it out a little bit better, but just keep working." So it was really cool like that. And then from there, I just, okay, this is something I'm gonna do. And that was my very first gig. And then my second gig that I got as a stand-up comedian, my tribe booked me without pay, which was funny. Uh, they were like, "You're a comedian now, huh?" And I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "Come prove it to us. We want to
Yeah.
put you on stage." And I was like, "Okay, how long do you guys want me to perform for?" They're like, "We want you to perform for 2 hours." And I'm like, "Okay," like not knowing anything.
That's a lot.
So then not knowing anything. And so I was like, I have my big book of binders. I have my binders. So I literally went to this tribal event for my tribe, and there was like 500 people in the audience. And I'm standing on stage, literally just reading page by page. And I can imagine like how torturous it was probably to the audience, because like I said, half those jokes weren't even, or even a third of those jokes weren't even funny. And the thing was, is I thought I was going to be so awesome. I set up a video camera off in the distance to record the whole thing, right? And when I went to go listen to the playback, I set up my camera by these two old ladies. And the whole time I'm there, these old ladies are just trashing me on stage, not knowing the camera's there.
Oh no.
Like having
So to
Statler
me,
and Waldorf.
yeah, no, legit like that. When I got off stage, I went to get my camera and I got all excited. I was like, let me listen to the last 5 minutes. I want to see how I did. And I'm listening to it and I was like, hey, I want to thank you guys for having me out. Then you hear these two old ladies, we didn't invite you out. I don't know who brought you out. You're not even funny. And then I'm like, thank you guys for laughing at my jokes. We ain't laughing. We're mad. I don't know who paid you or what they're paying you, but it's too much. So like I said, I got to hear this live feedback of what I just did. And to me, that hit hard. And I'm just like, okay, I need to actually work on being funny.
What a
And then
great
since then
story.
it just fired me up from there, I guess you could say.
Yeah, for sure. Jim Bob, you looked like you were going to ask a question.
You could have picked any number of careers there, but why comedian? Why?
Once again, like I said, when I was younger, it was something that I always wanted to do.
Mhm.
It was just something I didn't know we could do. Like a majority of the people I grew up with or grew up around on the reservation, like a lot of them, and this is nothing against them. A lot of their goals are, hey, I'm gonna work for the tribe, like basically working for the government. I'm gonna work Monday
Yeah.
through Friday, have my weekends off, 8 to 5. There's nothing wrong with that. But like I said, I never saw a whole lot of people pushing for a lot of anything. And I do get a lot of inspiration from my dad. My dad he was a part-time musician who did a lot with his musical talent.
Okay.
And I got to see him do that aspect, like push his band, and he actually won, I think, 2 Native American Grammys. They're called NAMMYs.
Wow.
So I got to see him be successful in that aspect, plus still hold down a job and help take care of his family at the time. And to me, that was just, truth be told, I'm also a musician, of course, and I was in his band, so I just got to be there firsthand, witnessing everything, and know that you can do more. There's more things out there like that for you. And
Nice.
then, but the comedian in me didn't come out until, like I said, this was like years later. Like for the last 20 years, I worked hospitality, food and beverage. And like when COVID hit, that closed my career for me because at the time of running catering events and banquets and that sort of stuff, it's all about meetings and gatherings and dinners and
Yeah.
buffets. And when COVID hit, that kind of put the kibosh on my 20, I think it was 20 or 22 years in food service.
Wow.
I always just did comedy on the side. Like I'd be the weekend warrior comedian, the hobbyist. I used to going out and just winning crowds and be like, oh, okay, yeah, I can be funny. But then when COVID happened and there was nothing to go back to, I'm just okay. And then a friend of mine Jim Perry had opened up his own comedy club in Gilbert called JP's Comedy Club during the COVID epidemic. And he got approved and opened the same year COVID happened. Yeah, so that was the whole thing with his club was like, oh man, nobody's risking COVID, all this stuff, and nobody's coming out. And he was booking me. He was like, hey, dude, if you want to come out, you can come out anytime and be on a show. So then I just started really working with him. And then I'd bring out maybe 8 or 9 people from the res. And even though his club only seats like 100 people, we could still only get like 20 to 30 people in there because of the 5 feet restrictions and all the stuff that was going on.
Yep.
But that's where I really started leaning more into being a comedian.
Okay.
Because at that point in time, I'm like, okay, I think that this is everybody used 2020. Everybody was like, oh, 2020, this is when we're going to get our vision 2020. This is where we see what your future is going to be. And then 2020 happened. Then it was like, oh, I guess 2021 is going to be my year to try something. So that's what I figured was like, okay, I guess this is the time I lean into comedy and kind of give it a 100%, which it was rough. Like I did have a part-time job working at a very sketchy hotel in Gilbert, in Mesa Gilbert area.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was definitely a what I call a knifey stabby
Oh,
Mm.
sweet.
hotel. Yeah. And I got the pleasure of working overnights there where there was always something happening. There's a lot of vagrants and miscreants and tweakers and whatnot coming around and just starting trouble all the time. But in essence, it was fun. It gave me a way to actually really look back at my life, on my life, and write about it from that perspective.
Yeah, and some material for sure.
Yeah, definitely material. But yeah, and the other thing about being a comedian is like when I was coming up, when I was just doing it as a hobby, okay, I want to try this, I want to try this. There was actually two native comedians that kind of like, 'cause- how do I put it? So for me, I always tell people I do two types of comedy. I do club comedy, which is your typical variety of comedy of jokes you're going to hear anywhere. And then I do res comedy, which is more tailored to our Native American people. And it's a huge difference because when I
Yeah.
first started, I just got to watch them and help learn to grow.
Okay. So tell me about res comedy and how
Uh,
that differs.
yeah. So like when I first started with res comedy, there was two comedians that were very prevalent at the time for me. One was named Drew LaCappa, and he was an Apache comedian from White River, and he just passed away last year. And then the other
Sorry.
one was Teresa Choigiwa, who's from the Tonoaltam Reservation, where my mom's from. And like I said, both of them would both bring me out, even though I wasn't funny. They put me on stage. They gave me a platform to try my material, and then they would still pay me, like I said, which was great, even though I wasn't funny. But I got to learn a lot from them and learn about what makes kind of res comedy or res humor.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
It's cultural.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Okay. Now I want to learn how to appreciate res comedy. Okay. I grew up in a Jewish neighborhood in New York City. All right. And you know, so there's something I know there were some jokes you could tell in the it was a public housing project. Okay. So there are
Yeah.
some things you could joke about amongst yourselves. You would never joke about in front of any other crowd. Okay. Jokes you only told in your own neighborhood because that was like so I'm thinking there's a parallel there, but what makes you res comedy unique?
I was gonna say, I think it's pretty much along those same lines. Like any other culture, like you said, very Jewish people, and like I always tell people, like Jewish people and Native Americans have so much in common that we don't even recognize that we're almost the same type of people sometimes. But like when it comes to res comedy, it's that same thing. It's the stuff that we wouldn't say in front of other cultures. Like we'll joke about domestic violence, we'll joke about alcoholism, we'll joke about our bad situation that we're in, and and like always, making fun of the colonizers, the colonization that happened, all that sort of stuff. And it's just relating to that basic level of we're all related. And
All our relations,
yeah,
but people make it really broad.
yeah. So, and that's what I was telling people about when I started, the more I started actually appreciating comedy and digging into comedy, is that sometimes when I would perform for, say, a strictly black audience, they wouldn't quite get I started off as a one-liner comedian, so they wouldn't quite get the one-liner jokes. Like they didn't care about jokes. They wanted real. They wanted something they could
Real,
relate to.
real talk.
Yeah, real talk. And it was the same thing like as I started out and I started getting slowly, like I said, coming up. I always got there's no Native American rooms for me. So I got put on a lot of Mexican shows, a lot of Latino shows, a lot of this and that. And with that, it's the same thing. And I learned to basically just tweak my res comedy a little bit because I started learning that everything's universal when you look at it. Like when I think about the basics of when I started doing res comedy, I was like, okay, what's funny about, like I said, going back to what's funny about my family? I was like, okay, I have a at the time, or when I was younger, strict alcoholic father growing up in that crazy household, overly religious mom, my grandmother who was super mean, my uncles who were alcoholics, and my aunties who thought that they still had it when they try to saunter around and like, you're aged out of that, chill out. You're almost a grandma yourself, chill out. And it was that type of stuff that you start learning that every culture has that. Everybody has
Yeah.
that family dynamic. And to me, that's what helped me broaden it. But like I said, with res humor, it's just more, like I said, it's more honed into specifics
Sure.
versus the generality that I just said right now.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
And like I said, not being afraid to go into those dark topics that we can laugh at. Like I said, like domestic violence, and somebody would think that domestic violence is funny, but we can make it funny when
right.
we all
Well, it's
relate to it.
gallows humor in some ways. It's nurses dealing with the ER and the kind of humor they need to have to cope with their situation. And the same in a lot of different cultural situations, it's the humor that heals that kind of pain that is everywhere almost, right? I'm taking that from
No,
what
no.
you're saying.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we always, like with my tribe, we always make jokes about the most you're ever going to laugh is when somebody dies because we dig our graves by hand with a shovel and everything. And the whole time we're out there, we're just sharing stories about this person who just passed. We're talking smack to each other. Oh, look who got fat. Who's not, look who's not shoveling. Just letting our feelings vent in a humorous way towards the situation.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Jim Bob again.
So go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. So tell us how you write your jokes because that sounds, from what I read, that's very important.
So you were quoting me earlier from the Fitz piece that he wrote on me for the Tucson
Yeah.
Times, I
Is
think it
any
is
of
something
that
like that.
correct? Yeah. It was,
No, at the time that was completely what it was. I was like all about my writing aspect and like I said, word association and this and that. Like I said, but once COVID hit and the biggest thing that kind of helped me hone myself was just learning to be real. Like I said, learning to be real with myself and learning to be real about my life experiences.
yeah.
So a lot of the jokes that I do now that are they're like I do have jokes that are made up, completely made up.
Uh-huh.
And I have jokes that are based completely true.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I get off stage, I always have people walk up to me that tell me, I can't tell if you're joking around or not, if that's true or not. And I was like, that's the best part because I'm going to tell you 50% of my stuff actually happens, 50% of it actually does. It's up to you to
Right.
figure out what's the real there.
Yeah.
But and that's like I said, working with JP's Comedy Club, like I said, being booked there all the time. He made me one of his house comedians, so that's my home club. I perform there the
Good
third
to
week of
know.
every month. Yeah, I
Good to
performed there the
know.
third week a month at JP's Comedy Club in Gilbert, Arizona. But yeah, he gave me the ability to like really hone myself and work on my on who I am
Mm-hmm.
versus just telling jokes. I'm trying to think of so I used to have this joke and it was just like, oh, my cousin came out of the closet at a family dinner. Pardon me. My cousin came out of the closet at a family dinner, and my grandmother said, I guess the only bows that warrior will be using will be in his hair. So
Okay.
that was just something that was written from a word association type of joke for
Yeah.
myself. And it's a play on words, it's a pun. And I was just like, okay. And then I started looking at myself and the reality of it. And one of the bits that I do now is that, and this is completely true, is that I always get mistaken whenever I go out because not a lot of people know what a modern day native looks like. I often get mistaken for being a mini Samoan,
Uh-huh.
an overgrown Filipino. And then last week I went out and I got mistaken for a lesbian,
Oh, sweet.
which is completely true. Gone out to places and I've been misgendered and I don't get what it is, which is funny, but I don't know. I just have feminine features or what, but I've gone out to the point where okay, that's become part of who I am, but just that's something that happens to me. So that's why I had to start making a joke about it
Mm-hmm.
and being more real with myself. And then back in the day I would never talk about my kids. I have three kids
Mm-hmm.
or my home life or my actual family life. And now, as I feel myself growing more, I'm bringing more of my family humor into it and stuff that happens at home and weaving that into the stories that I tell on stage. And it helps, like I said, to me, it connects with everybody a lot more. Because, like I said, we all either have kids or know that kids can be dumb sometimes.
Yeah.
And then working with like the whole empowerment stuff right now. And I was telling him one of my jokes is my kid. He's like I said, this is the joke, right? So my kid's dumb, right? And
Okay.
he doesn't pay attention, but like his school gave them a speech about how kids can be empowered. And if their parents are abusing them or they know of somebody who's abused, they can call CPS, that they have that power to reach out and help themselves.
Uh-huh.
which was cool. Except for my son, one day he got mad, and I got mad at him, and he was like, "I don't have to listen to you talk to me like this, Dad. I'm gonna call CVS on you." You know. And I was like, well, call CVS, call them, see if my metformin's ready or something like that. And then that just became the joke that he doesn't even pay attention enough to where it could save his life if it needed to.
And of course, both CVS and CPS involve a lot of paperwork, so it's
Exactly.
easy to get them confused. I can do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
kids are amazing as a source of material. It's just
Oh yeah. Oh
they're,
yeah,
they're such
definitely.
a gift.
Like I was recently telling, so I have my youngest daughter, she was diagnosed with SMA, which is spinal muscular atrophy,
Oh,
when she was 1 years old, and she's wheelchair bound now because of it. But I always tell people, oh, she was feeling left out because I'm always roasting my two other kids all the time and making fun of them and calling them names and like just roasted them all the time. And my daughter was like, Daddy, why don't you make up why don't you talk to me like you talk to Lloyd and Melanie? I'm just like, chill out, Hot Wheels, we'll get there eventually. And then I was telling her, I was like, you know what? I was like, you know what, babe? And she was like, what? I was like, you're gonna get yourself a good man one day. I was like, she was like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, because they know that you'll never walk out on them. So like I go there with them because like I said, the thing is one thing with going back to the red humor again, one thing with Native families is we actually hit those spots when we make fun of each other and we talk to each other. We're very to the throat with some of our jokes that are based in reality.
Uh-huh. Yeah, can you say
Like
more about that?
yeah, so I was telling about I remember my grandmother, one of my grandmothers from my dad's side. She was very straightforward and to the point with things. And I remember when I started getting fatter as a teenager, she would say, "Oh, come here, boy." She'll hug me and put her arms around me, and then became the passive aggressive comments. Like later on, as I got bigger, she's, "Oh, I remember when my fingers used to touch when they'd hug you," like stuff like that. And that's always how real it is. And I was telling him like when I was younger, one of the first jokes I actually do remember making as a kid, and it really pissed off my dad. It was funny, was me and my brothers and sisters were literally running around the house at full speed, and I tripped and fell, and I hit the corner of my eyebrow. I hit my eyebrow on the corner of the walls, and I had a giant gash in my forehead and it was bleeding. And my mom was a CNA, a certified nursing assistant. So she fixed me up and cleaned me up. And she asked me if I want to go to the hospital or not. She's, I think it needs stitches, but it might just heal on its own. But it's up to you if you want to go. And I was like, no, I don't want to go to the hospital. I'll just stay home. So I had this giant gauze and tape on my forehead. And then my dad came home late at night and he came into my room and he woke me up and he was like, hey, I heard you got a giant scar on your forehead now. And I was like, hey, he was like, let me see it. So I pulled back the bandage and he looked at it. He's, oh, you're all ugly now. He, ain't no woman gonna marry you now because of that scar.
oh,
And I was like, somebody married you, so I think I'll be okay. And then he just said, go to sleep and turned off the lights and walked out of my room. But that, to me, that always stuck in my brain as being one of the first like smarty comebacks that I came up with. And literally, I just woke up and said it, but it was funny.
I want to ask, what's life like on a reservation? I know you can't speak for every single one, but what you can speak of, there's a lot of people that have no idea. Can you share?
But yeah, and once again, can't speak for a nation, can't speak for
That's
everybody. I
right.
can only
yeah.
speak for myself and my experience,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Disclaimer.
Yes.
For me, my life growing up on the reservation is great, and I wouldn't change anything in my life about it. I can even run down the timeline because it's so prevalent to me from when I was born till I was 5. I grew up in Chandler, Arizona, in the ghettos of Pecos and Arizona Avenue, and I went to school at a Head Start, which there was no natives there except for me and I think we had one black kid and we were friends. But when we were 5, I that's when our family moved to the res into like Homeboy said, we had a public housing. So we moved into these project houses and there was 55 houses out there. Is there 55? 75. There was 75 houses out there and it was just like they built a housing project in the middle of the desert and you had to drive for like forever to get there. And that's how I grew up all the way up until I was like 13. And at the time, it's funny, once again, going back to res humor, all of the families that moved in there were all young families that were just starting out. And they were all, the fact they were living in tribal housing means we're poorer than most folks, right? the housing workers, the project workers that would inspect the houses to make sure the families were maintaining them and keeping them in good condition started calling it Baloney Town. They were calling our
Bologna.
little,
Baloney
yeah, they're
Town?
calling it because every house they went to, the main thing that every house had was bologna because at the time it was the cheapest thing you could get.
And
Yeah,
fried
we used to call,
bologna is a thing.
yeah, fried bologna, eggs and bologna. Yeah, I'll go down like Bubba Gump on Forrest Gump, everything bologna.
That is a big thing in West Virginia, by the way, is
Yeah,
the bologna,
bologna.
fried bologna sandwiches. That that was a culture. In fact, there was even there's a famous chain of called Tudor's Biscuit World. Okay, and Tudor's Biscuit World, they have a sandwich. It's a biscuit with an egg and a slice of bologna on it, and they call that the politician. It's a
Nice. But yeah, so that's where I ended up growing up at was this little place they called Baloney Town because we're all poor, but it was awesome for me because I got to live wild and this was like the early like I said, the early 90s at the time. I was born in 81. So yeah, it was like late 80s, early 90s. There was a giant canal, maybe like a mile from my house that we would all go swimming, all a bunch of us neighborhood kids that weren't supposed to swim in the canals, but there we are swimming in canals, doing crazy stuff, being just little, for lack of a better word, just being little wild Indians. We'd be out in the desert chasing horses, getting chased by wild pigs. Me and my
Amazing.
friends were crazy enough that we used to like to pick up gopher snakes and throw them at each other. So it was, like I said, it was just wild times. And like our like I said, it was a poorer neighborhood. So literally it felt like no kid, like there wasn't any parents around because majority of them were out working.
no.
And there was a few of us,
Right.
there was a few kids that were raised by like their grandparents that would peek out the door and just watch over the neighborhood and watch over the kids. Like whenever I go missing or somebody would go looking for me, hey, would you see where Wolf went? And somebody would be like, oh yeah, he walked off down that way. Then sure enough, my dad would be jumping in the truck, driving around looking for me, and they find me in the directions. But yeah, growing up on the res, I never felt like in danger. Like I have a joke that I tell now about how to me it was always weird that maybe it's for other reservations. Like I said, I can only speak for my own,
Hmm.
but I've never felt in danger or scared or really a whole lot of fear growing up as a kid. I just felt like I got to live and got to do stuff. And even now I look back on it as like the kind of like the better times of our lives. Like
Hmm.
I feel like our generation or my generation, like all of my friends are all hardworking people who all take care of their families. And I think it's just based on the way that we all grew up.
Yeah, and the next generation, like, what do the young kids need right now in that you know of? So we don't generalize.
Definitely. And like, I was talking to a friend about this the other day. And like, I like that, there's a couple, whatever the generations are after me. I think that they're really good. There seems to be, at least in my tribe, there seems to be a revitalization of our culture.
Good.
And there's a lot more younger kids that I know that actually can speak our language,
Nice.
which is nothing seems better to me than that.
What's
Like
the
our
name?
language.
So it's Gila is the tribe.
Yeah, so it's the Gila River Indian Community, but our tribe is the Akimadatham, which is
I've
river
never
people.
heard of that. River people. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so Akimadatham means river people. And then there's my mom's tribe is Tonowatham, which is desert people.
Wow. Okay.
And then you have the Salt River tribe where my kids are from, and they're the Anakatham, which is the Salt River
Right.
Autumn.
Because I'm near that. I'm near that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
But yeah, so now
can I
there's
ask a really dumb question?
absolutely, I love these ones.
Is it all Apache?
No, we are
These are Pima. Okay. Oh, that's
so
right.
so
Because Pima pants. I.
happy my pants, yeah.
Oh,
That's your joke. That's your joke.
That's actually when I first started doing comedy, I worked with this guy named Nick. We worked in downtown Phoenix. And he actually wrote that joke for me. He put it in an intro. He's like, hey, if you ever have anybody do an intro for you, have him do this. And there's all like, please welcome this guy. He's so funny. I pee my pants. But yeah, so like when the government named the tribe, and this is what we always laugh at too. This is like
Huh?
an inside Gila River joke, is that to the government we're known as Pimas,
Okay.
as Pimas, and the history behind that. It's funny because when the Spanish missionaries came over, they were asking the tribe or the villagers or the people they encountered, what do you call yourselves? What's your name? What do you
Right.
call yourselves? And our tribal people responded as Pimas or Pimas, which means I don't know,
Oh,
because they don't speak
oh no.
Spanish. From that point on, when the government said that, oh, they're Pimas, so that's one of the inside jokes for our tribe is we're the I don't know tribe or the what tribe,
Oh my goodness.
depending
Oh
on
my
how you
God.
use it.
Oh, that
And
stuff
what
that
Oh.
and what's even funnier than that is now you have Pima College. I don't know college. What college? And there's just a lot of little things like that with a lot of different tribes that kind of have that same thing. The
Oh.
Tonoaltham used to be known as the Papago, which was
Okay.
a name given to them by the missionaries again.
Oh.
And I guess what Papago means in Spanish is bean eaters.
Oh. Uh-huh.
So that's what because that's every time they go to the Tonoaltham reservations or the Papago reservations, all these people we eat were beans, so they call
Uh-huh.
them bean eaters. Which I thought it was funny because now the bean eaters are calling us the bean eaters.
Yeah. And so at this stage of the game, I guess it's still not kosher to do colonization jokes out in public to everybody. People get insulted.
No, actually, I would consider myself a newer native comedian compared to some of the vets that have been doing this a while.
Sure.
And I would say that myself and there's a Navajo comedian who actually would be great too for future reference. His name is Josh Foyer. He's from New Mexico and he's a Navajo comedian.
Okay.
And I would say that him, myself, and there's Joshua Emerson from Denver who's a Navajo comedian. I would say we're a little bit more on the aggressive side sometimes when we walk on stage and like we'll address colonization. We'll address the white people and not be afraid to hold back and make those jokes at them and whatever is being said or being claimed at the time.
Yeah.
I was
Because
making fun of the land recognition that people do.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
tell me about that. 'Cause
For me, it's okay. Okay, land recognition is the least amount of work you can do if you actually think that you care.
that's right. Because you could give it
Like,
back. You could give it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You could do more. And
Yeah.
like that, it's funny because I used to do this one bit, and I can't even remember how it goes now. But I used to address how like a lot of people, some like even you're here from Arizona, still look down towards Native Americans, and we're the ones basically helping fund the state.
Right.
Yeah.
Our casinos are the ones that are
Exactly.
funding all the highways, all the things. Like I used to work at a casino, unmentioned,
Uh-huh.
but whenever I go to our meetings, I'd see how much money goes back to the state, goes back to the state, and it's just I don't think that I think if people knew that, they would look at a lot of natives a lot differently, you know.
And so I've always wondered. So my family is somehow, and I don't know how yet. I'm still working on the genealogy, related to Eastern Band, Tennessee, North Carolina, Georgia. And it's a word of mouth story, and I'm trying to prove it. And this is my dad's Irish face that I got. And but I drove the Trail of Tears, and even though our side of the family did not actually do the walk, I did some of the walk when I could, when it was available. And I stopped at Navajo, I stopped at Wallape, West Grand Canyon, I want to stop at Hopi. But here's the thing. Does the reservation get kickbacks from the casino? Or does it
It
depend on
depends.
the tribe?
It depends on the tribe. So we like with my tribe, we have one of my favorite governors. We call them governors, not presidents or chiefs or something like that. We have a governor. We had a governor of our tribe
Yep.
who her name was Mary Thomas, and she was by far one of that was like her era I grew up in, and in her within her era, that's when we got our casino,
Okay.
and that's when I would see the first levels of prosperity for my tribe and for the future of our people. Like she
Mhm.
had this long distance vision that I was probably her and a bunch of other people, but in
Sure.
my eyes as a kid, she was the forerunner, the pusher of it. And she built our first, she was one of the ones that, hey, we're not, some tribes pay out money to their tribal members as per capita.
Right. And I feel like
So
as I was going from place to place and res to res, I could see who was sharing and who wasn't.
yeah, and that was the thing with our tribe was that they were like, no, we're not going to give the money to the people.
Ugh.
We're going to put it into the community.
Oh, okay.
So what
Tell,
they
yeah.
so what they ended up doing is they ended up building our first hospital
Oh, good.
on our reservation. That we fund our own police department on our reservation. I'm sure there's some federal dollars in there too, but majority of the stuff comes from our gaming,
Okay,
building
good.
up our schools, making better stuff, working with the infrastructure so that way we're set up. Like I said, once again, it's just all this long distance planning
Uh-huh.
that now I see our tribe and we're very prosperous. And now we're to the point where we're somewhat taken care of.
Good.
And now we get per capita payments from my tribe. It's
Good.
not a lot. It's not a
Sure.
lot, but
Yeah.
the fact the majority of it is still going towards the community and we get just a little bit, that works for me.
Yeah.
Like because I always told, I'd have like friends, oh, I can't believe the tribe should be giving us more money and this and that. I was like, dude, I just look at it as bonus anything. Whether, because like when we first started getting it, I think it was like $100, 100 to $200 4 times a year,
Mm-hmm.
which is what, $800 or whatever. So I'm just like, dude, that's $800 you did in half. That's $200 you did in half prior. And to me, like I said, the more it's
Yeah.
slowly going up, but at the same time, it doesn't matter to me. I could
Mm-hmm.
go either way. I could take it or leave it. When I get it, I usually just use it on my kids anyway or something.
But I do think it's infrastructure, that being part of the revenue that comes in from the casino being somehow giving back to the tribe.
Yeah.
I think is really important, especially nowadays. So I want to ask you, has humor been healing for you?
Has humor been healing for me? I am going to say, yeah. I think that we covered a lot already. And I think
Yeah.
that to me, as any Native American will tell you, that's our basis for everything. We just have to laugh at life and laugh at what happens, whether it be good or bad. And it's funny because, like I said, my tribe we're very sarcastic people. It's funny. Okay. So in my tribe, we have this word called shoik, and it used to mean like all poor baby
Mm.
or all poor thing. It would be something that a mother would say to their
Mm.
child to soothe them.
Yeah.
But now the way it's evolved, it's if you're like, say you're standing outside and you see somebody walking and they're not paying attention and they trip and fall, then you yell shoik, you know? And it's like a sarcastic, you poor thing. Oh, look at you, you know. And to me, that kind of, I always tell people that kind of sums up my tribal humor at least, because that's how we are. Like I said, it's very sarcastic and direct at the same time.
Love it. Jim Bob?
Okay. So, but question, this is my favorite question. Okay. Is that we're the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor, so looking at ways that people use humor in everyday living. Okay. So, what would you want someone to remember about your humor, your approach to life on any given Thursday? What's one thing you would like them to apply about your humor? Yeah.
Did I can laugh at myself.
Yeah.
A lot of times I have conversations. Like I said, it's funny because I do have a lot of conversations. A lot of times it's Caucasian people after shows. They always tell me, "Oh, I feel like I learned something and laughed at your show." And but I always tell them, I was like, they're like, "Do you take offense when people make fun of natives?" Or I was like, "No." I was like, because ultimately I'm a comedian and I either have to laugh at everything or laugh at nothing.
Yeah.
And if you can't laugh at yourself, then who can you laugh at?
Wow, that's great.
And to me, that's one of those things that, like I said, I push through a lot of. And I've read a lot of books in my time. I've done a lot of trainings and whatnot. I've read, and I come to find out by accidentally that basically Stoicism and just our Native American culture kind of coincide on that same note.
Mm.
Yeah.
And like the Stoicism says, you could be dead. That's the other side to it. My pants fell down in front of the girl I liked, but I'm still breathing, you know? Everybody got to
Right.
laugh and I'm still alive.
Amazing. You have a new album coming out. Where do people find you? Give all your uh, info. We'll also put it in the show notes.
Okay, so you can find me once again every third week of the month in Gilbert, Arizona at JP's Comedy Club. You can find me at Hilarious Wolf on Instagram, at Hilarious Wolf on Facebook, at Hilarious Wolf at TikTok.
And that
And
hilarious
so,
is with a G.
yep, that Hilarious is spelled with a G, Gilarious. But if you're from Arizona, you should know that the G is an H, like Gila Monster.
Right.
So it's Hilarious Wolf. You can find me at all those places where you'll find like my tour dates, my traveling dates, and yeah, after this show, after we get done here, I'm gonna get ready and start packing my bags. I have a flight to Minnesota tomorrow morning at 5
Wow.
a.m.
Oh, Minnesota. It's going to be cooler.
Yeah. Oh, not Minnesota, North Dakota. Same thing, though.
Oh, sorry. Well, it'd
Yeah,
still
yeah.
be cooler. Yeah.
It's that same area that nobody cares about.
I have to. I'm so honored that you joined us, and I'm so excited to debut this on Indigenous Peoples Day. Thank you for joining us,
Absolutely.
and best wishes. And I'll see you in Gilbert. I'll make my way there. There'll be a day you'll see me. This
Oh, yeah.
little lady that looks like this in the audience.
Take pictures. I want to see that.
Cool.
All right. This has been Laughbox, the official podcast of the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. We'd like to thank our guest, Wolf Brown.
Yay!
You can
Thank
find
you.
Wolf's work at Gilarious Wolf, Gilarious WOLF, on Instagram, Facebook, and all your basic good social media platforms.
And go see him in Gilbert, Arizona.
Laughbox is a production of the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. Visit us online at www.aath.org. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Music by Gary Rubio. For more information, www.garyrubiomusic.com.